good morning to everyone attending this morning. It's not a very interesting subject, written communication, but it is a very powerful management tool. And it's something that you can develop over time. It's not something that I can even do in 30 minutes to explain you how to do written communication. Practice makes perfect. And it always says that the pen is more powerful than the sword. And that is true because it's an extension of yourself. As soon as you put something in writing, it's recorded and it's out there and it's gone and you have made a statement, and then you must be able to defend yourself. So a very important part of your business is written communication, and especially in the plumbing fraternity. Now, if we look at written communication, it is as old as, or well, older than the trade of plumbing. Way back, people have been recording everything in history through written communication, and there's a certain way of doing it. And there are many ways, and I'm quite sure you have a way of doing it yourself. So this morning is just to give a bit of structure to it, to assist you in doing better written communication. You might have a different way, but this is just a guideline as how to address written communication in the business of plumbing. So let's look at the forms of written communication for the plumber. It would typically, in today's time, it would be in the form of email. Letters, very little, but yes, sometimes you have to address it in a letter, and we'll show how to do that. Proposals or quotations is a very important one. Obviously, invoicing. Invoicing is a part of your written communication, although you might have a program already which is structured to do your invoicing. But smaller companies don't have that. They might have a little book that they buy from the P&A and they just write on that. But you can, if you're doing computer work, you can do it on Excel and you can make your own little invoice, and it's very easy and it's quite cheap. You don't have to maintain an expensive program. And then obviously WhatsApp, very careful one. We've got to be very careful about this. I'm not very fond of it, but we are going to address WhatsApp as well. Contracts, another form, and reports, which will not be done today. Contracts is obviously for a professional, so they would be drafting the written communication and the contract for you. So that is not something that you as a plumber would normally do. Reports would be something that is very important, and we can spend a day on that, how to do a proper report, and especially when you are doing a certificate of compliance for a existing house. Then you might have to do a long report on the feedback, or a damage report for an insurance company. They ask you, please give me a damage report. So how do you put it in there to persuade the insurance company that this damage was caused by whatever the case may be, and to pay out for it? So that is what contracts, reports, and COCs we will not address today. So characteristics of written communication. Accuracy. The facts and working must be accurate. Opinions and deductions must be distinguishable from facts. So when you put something there, don't make a guesswork about it, or just write down something, but it must be factual, must be accurate. Brevity. A reader must be informed in the shortest way, consistent with accuracy and clarity. Brevity is achieved by planning and careful editing. So you keep it brief. Don't beat around the bush with a long story, because you are going to make the reader confused as what you are trying to put down to the point. And then obviously editing, very important. Always read what you've written, because you can make so many errors. Just a spelling error can make the world of difference. Included, excluded. Just think of those two words. I made that mistake, very expensive mistake once, cost me about 20,000 Rand, where I said the plans are included and it was supposed to be excluded. So just a word like that can cost you a lot of money. Clarity must be intelligible, reasoned, and unambiguous. Relevance, any relevant word, phrase, or idea must be excluded. The test is, if the word is omitted, will the argument be affected? So your document should be, first of all, logically structured. You can see there's a little organigram next to it. Have a logical structure to what you're trying to tell the reader. Be effective, to the point, relevant, and persuasive, because you want an action out of this to come out of this communication. So style, what is your style in writing? Aim to be direct and courteous, always courteous. Express your view simply. Jargons, the use of jargons. In our work, we have a lot of jargons. In plumbing, we talk about the PRV valve with the TP was not extended over the geyser. So yes, maybe a lot of jargons are used. Make sure that the reader knows what you are talking about. Otherwise, you'll have to explain it. And if you look at the Consumer Protection Act, it says clearly when you are using technical language, you must get the consumer into a non-technical language so that he can understand what you're talking about. The term lagging, for instance, I've seen it so many times on a certificate of compliance, and the consumer would say to me, "What is this lagging or laching?" You know, when they think of Afrikaans, they don't know what it is. Just translate it to rubber insulation. Everybody knows what rubber insulation on hot water piping would be, but lagging doesn't make sense. That's a jargon. Use short everyday words and phrases. Avoid the use of acronyms and abbreviations, but it's not avoidable completely. So what would an acronym be? An abbreviation formed from the initial letters of other words and pronounced as a word such as, like, for instance, IOPSA. We talk about IOPSA, we talk about PILB, but the consumer out there does not know what is IOPSA. So it's something that we use within the plumbing fraternity. It's like corporate language. PRV, pressure reducing valve. We talk about the TP valve. So the consumer say, "What? My valve is leaking." So what valve is it? You have to distinguish, and you'll have to explain to the consumer. TP is a temperature pressure reducing valve. So yes, how are we going to write this when we do a written communication? How do you use an acronym? Sorry, I just have to move something in my presentation slightly here. See if I can move it. Okay, can't move it. All right. We as a plumbing company, so this is just an example. The first paragraph there, we as plumbing companies being members of the Institute of Plumbing South Africa, IOPSA. Now note, I'll put it in red there so you can see. I have now put it in brackets. Are lucky to have licensed plumbers employed who are licensed with the Plumbing Industry Registration Board, once again, PRB, in brackets beyond. So this would be my first paragraph, or wherever I'm using this word for the first time, I'll put it, the acronym, in brackets directly behind that. So then as I go along with my correspondence, I say the fact that IOPSA is a member organization means that it is a different mandate to the PRB, which is a registration body where plumbers register to be licensed. Therefore, it is clear that there is a difference between the respective mandates of the PRB and IOPSA. So now the reader has got a lot of wording in there, and I don't have to repeat what IOPSA stands for because I've done it initially right in the beginning in the first paragraph. So whenever you use an acronym or an abbreviation, the first time in a document, you put it in brackets behind the full meaning of that word, and thereafter you can use it in the document. Unless it's a large document, you would most probably have a list of abbreviations. But in this sense, it just makes it much easier to read. So written communication, mostly used by plumbing, is addressing complaints. That is one of the things that plumbers normally have a lot of to do with. Delivering quotations, invoicing, a request for payment. So how do you address a complaint? Methods: by phone, which is not always the best way, because a lot of he said, she said happens on the phone, and there's no record of it, and you don't see the person's reaction behind that phone. So rather do it in writing. Say to the person, "I would like you to just drop me an email, and I would answer your complaint that way." SMS or WhatsApp, stay away from SMS and WhatsApp when you have to address a complaint. Don't do it. Letters, obviously, or an email fashion would be the best way to do it. So let's look at Basil's Plumbing. He is now addressing a complaint, and this is in the form of a letter, nicely structured. He's got his letterhead there, and he has a address block at the top with his address, his telephone number. You'll see inquiries and his email address, everything there. That's what's required on a letterhead. All the information so that the reader knows where to contact you, who to contact, who is going to answer the phone on that side when they do phone that phone. You can have information like your Institute of Plumbing SA number on there, the licensed plumber PLB registration number, and then you address it with an address to Mr. J Soap, not Joe, because he introduced himself as Joe as the consumer because he said, "Call me Joe, but always keep it professional." You are addressing him, keep your work always professional, because as soon as there's a complaint, he turns into Mr. Soap, and then he doesn't want to be called Mr. Joe anymore. So now he's talking about the installation of his hot water cylinder at the said address. So you're going to have a subject matter, which you'll put in capital letters there, installation of hot water cylinder at double colon, and then the address. You'll put in there 12 Consumer Avenue at Consumerville. And then the best, I always say, use paragraph numbers. Now, I know a lot of people don't use paragraph numbers, but later I'll explain to you why use paragraph numbers. So first of all, you refer to his letter, his email, or his phone call, whatever the case may be, dated, and you put the date there, refers, or it has reference. And then short, you say, I take note that my licensed plumber did not do the work all by himself and did not allow the apprentice to do the work. This action was under my instructions, and therefore the plumber is not to be taken to task by your daughter. In future, feel free to contact me personally if you have any questions regarding the work and my workmen. I give my men direct instructions to only do work as they have been authorized to by me. I would like to thank you for bringing this matter to my attention, and I have high regard for your opinion. Any questions, feel free to contact me personally. And you finish it there. So short and sweet, you've acknowledged that he has put the complaint forward in your first paragraph. Second paragraph and third paragraph is the body of the discussion. And fourthly, you ended off just by concluding the matter. And then obviously at the bottom, it is electronically signed or whatever the case may be, but you say who is Basil Green, and he's the director of Basil's Plumbing, so that they know where it's coming from and it is authorized. So if you're going to use paragraph numbers, why? Because if there's further correspondence, and especially when you start writing reports, etc., like that, and becomes 10-page documents, then it is much easier to refer to a paragraph. And instead of saying, I'm referring to the matter above somewhere in this document. It's much easier to say, I'm referring to paragraph number 13, subparagraph A, this matter. So always use paragraph numbers in formal communication. It's much better to refer back to. Always start with an intro by referring to the matter, be it by mail or telephone call. Then we know exactly, and you have a record of how this complaint was done. And date stamp the reference, not last week or yesterday or whatever. Put a date to the correspondence. Keep the reference short and to the point. So typically today, we would not be doing letters mostly. We do a lot of emails. You all know how your inbox looks like in the morning, on a Monday morning especially. So this would be a typical email. You're not going to say there, hi, Mr. Soap. You're going to put in there, Mr. Soap, or you're going to address him, good day, Mr. Soap, whatever the case may be. And you're going to do it exactly the same way as in the letter. This is exactly the same, and you end it off the same way. So keep it nice, formally structured, as you would do it in a letter. Only difference being that you won't have a letterhead here. You would most probably have a nice banner at the bottom with your company details on. And in this case, you'll see that we've got here at the bottom, Basil Green, Director, Basil's Plumbing, and you'll have his telephone number and his email address. So his contact details are all there at the bottom. Where on the letter, you'd have it on your letterhead right at the top. So what to avoid in written communication: writing in capital letters, using of exclamation marks, highlighting the above capital letters in red. Rather, writing in capital letters, use of exclamation marks, highlighting the above capital letters in red. Just look at this. The top section, all in capital letters, and I've got a section highlighted. And look at the bottom. It's exactly the same writing, but it looks different. It looks much more calmer, because the top would look very aggressive. You never do that. That's not courteous, and it's not a good way of doing communication. You do not do it in capital letters. You never write in red, unless you are highlighting it for a purpose. And then in that purpose, you would write there, I'm highlighting the matter in red, or the highlighted section in yellow for your attention. That would be something totally different. You'd use that in a report, because it's a tool that you use when highlighting something, but do not do that in formal communication. It is seen as aggressive. So just look at that same email with written in capital letters and with exclamation marks. Exactly the same wording, but it just doesn't look good. It looks aggressive, and it doesn't look nice. It doesn't look structured for that matter. So do not use it. It is really not the way to do communication. So delivering a written quotation. Consumers want to see one thing. They want to see the bottom line. What is it going to cost me? So if we look at a quotation, typically on a letterhead, once again, on a Basil's letterhead, neatly at the top, and then it has an introduction that says quotation, plumbing work for bathroom renovations. Cost for plumbing and construction work at 12 Consumer Avenue for 3 bathrooms. Now he's reading this document. Now he's looking, what is it going to cost me? He's looking for the bottom line. So what does he do? He skips everything in the document and he goes to the back page to go and see what it's going to cost him. And then he takes the next quotation and he looks for the bottom line there again. And he skips the argument of what costs are included, what is excluded, and he just looks at the bottom line. So Mr. Plumber B would have everything excluded, where you have got a lot of stuff included, but yours would be more expensive and his would be cheaper. So you might lose a quotation on that. So give him what he's looking for. He wants to see what it's going to cost him. So there we've got it. I just highlighted it in yellow to show you. So just add it in there right in the beginning of your quotation. You have the cost of it. And then what happens is that you'll see the cost and he thinks, okay, this is a lot of money. Okay, but what do I get for my money? And then he starts reading the document. Costs included in this quotation and eventually costs excluded in this quote. And then he has the finishing off of the document. And in that way, you are forcing the reader to read the quotation instead of just reading the bottom line. So putting it right in the beginning of the document, he sees what it's going to cost, and now he's going to see why it's costing him that much, and he'll read the rest of the document. So it's a bit of an art, and that will assist him comparing apples with apples. So now you've done the job. You've getting a complaint regarding the invoice. So once again, on a letterhead, it would look like this. Typically, complaint, and you'll have your paragraph 1 where you refer to his email dated, and you take note that you have a query about the invoicing regarding the renovations. And paragraph 3, I refer to my quotation for the renovations dated such and such, paragraph 2. So this is where it becomes important to refer to a paragraph, because now you've got it there. So he's now got a query on this invoice that you've submitted to him, and he says that you didn't tell me that the tabs were included or whatever. You can now refer to it and you can show him where it was, and that is why document proof is always good. So it says there, this was a part of my quotation and I was unaware that your daughter changed the supplied her own shower traps. Therefore, going forward, please bring it to my attention if changes are made and not to the apprentices, etc., etc. So, and the last one, you just say there, how you've rectified it. I would like to thank you for bringing this matter to my attention, and I have instructed my accounts department to adjust and credit the shower traps at cost. Any questions, feel free to contact me. Short and sweet, not he said, she said, and my daughter said this or that. Nice, to the point, and short and brevity. So typically exactly the same. We'd be doing this mostly on email. This is what it would look like. You won't have a letterhead. You'll just address it to the consumer at the top, and exactly the same. And at the bottom of your email, you would have the contact details and the company details. And as I said, you can have it in a neat banner made up if you like. So invoicing, what is important about invoicing? You've got to have the company details on there, client details, complete, description of the job, payment method, and your banking details. This is what you need. If you want to get paid, you need that. Otherwise, they're going to phone you, they're going to contact you, write emails. Where's your banking details? Can I pay like this? Can I pay like that? And they're extending the time of payment. You want to get paid quickly, so have all the details on your invoice. If you don't have an invoice made up by a program or electronic program or a computer program, then you can do something like this on Excel. It's so easy for yourself. It's cheap. You don't have to pay licensing fees for it, and you've got it all there. You can add to it. You can delete from it. You can do what you like. And if you look, there's all the information of Basil's Plumbing at the top, the contact details, his registration number to IOPSA, and then the client's details. And you, on the right-hand side, if you're working for the insurance company, you can put the insurance company details in there. And you say in a bold letters, replace a 10 kilowatt quick hot Prisma geyser. You've got all the pricing here. You've listed it. You've got your service fee in there. You've got the old geyser and new geyser information there. And then there you've got how you don't want to get paid. Only electronic fund payments accepted. Cash only payable at office. And you've got your terms, strictly 7 days. And then at the bottom, your banking details. So that is all the stuff on your invoice. And you know that there won't be any queries on your invoice unless there was a discrepancy. So now let's get to WhatsApp. As I said, be very careful of WhatsApp. It is a very good way of communication, or quick way, but it can be very dangerous as well. First of all, what is the first rule of digital etiquette? The first rule of internet etiquette is to be kind and courteous. Remember that whatever you send is still an extension of yourself. What are the advantages? It's cheap, it's quick, it's versatile, it's lekker, but it's professional. And just look at the word, it's lekker. Now, okay, that is what happens. The way the youngsters communicate nowadays, I can't understand what they're writing to me. They use a language of their own. It doesn't look good. It's not professional. If you're using it at all, keep it professional. You must write there exactly the same way you write an email. You must put your contact details in that, even if your name is in the WhatsApp group or whatever. Write your details at the bottom, unless it is an informal communication with somebody that you know, it's a friend or something. But stay away from communicating with a client at all costs, unless it is like just for maintenance purposes or whatever. It's unprofessional at most. It forces the businessman into a quick answer, which it keeps a record, which can jump up to bite you, because now you're forced into making a decision and you've not thought it through properly, and now you could be costing you much more than you thought was going to cost the consumer. So is a WhatsApp good written communication? That is a question, but do it and use it to your own advantage, because it's got a photo capability. So when you're doing maintenance, it's easy to say to the client when he phones you, could you please drop me a photograph on WhatsApp? Do you use WhatsApp? Yes. Send me a photo so I can see, because that can just assist you in getting the right materials for the job if you go out on maintenance. For record purposes, it's good, especially if the client is rude and offensive. Work group for distributing information, work related to your workers, excellent. Being in contact with your plumbers on an inexpensive system, yes, it helps. It's a very good tool, but be careful in using it in formal communication. So that's it for me this morning.